Hello and welcome to the rally control room here in Nottingham, a city that tonight is packed with tired rally crews and journalists and support teams from all over the world, all of whom are winding down after the strains and tensions and adventures of the past 5 days because the Lombard RAC Rally in '89 is drawing to a close. Won for the very first time by a Japanese car, the Mitsubishi Galant VR4, driven by a man who's never won a world-class event before, Pentti Ricola, the British Finn. So it's a double first, and the whole place is busting out all over with the news. What we're going to do in tonight's programme is really retell the story of this extraordinary 5-day caravanserai that's just travelled all round Britain, drawing in its wake thousands, not to say millions, of spectators at breakneck speed. A story that starts on Sunday, the 19th of November, just after dawn. 187 entrants, 1,900 miles to travel in total, 375 special stage miles, and all to play for really at Woollerton Park in Nottingham in the early morning mist as Alan Douglas takes up the story.
First car away was the Toyota Celica GT4 of 1987 winner Juha Kankkunen. But this spectator stage caught him out on one of the first bends. He recovered well, though, to set the third fastest time on the mixed surface tracks. Next was fellow Finn Ari Vatanen in his four-wheel drive, four-wheel steering Mitsubishi Galant, hoping for better luck than last year when he retired with engine failure. '26-year-old Spanish champion Carlos Sainz, known as the Matador, provided plenty of excitement and scored the fastest time of 1 minute 44 seconds in another Celica GT4. From Nottingham, it was north to the Duke of Devonshire's estate at Chatsworth for a 1.5-mile high-speed drive through the grounds. Richard Hudson-Evans watched the action there.
Nothing stately about the rally stars in a hurry here. The third possible winner from Japan this year could be one of the Mazdas. Timo Salonen, though, could ill afford to waste time. By the end of the stage, he was 9 seconds slower than Kankkunen's Toyota. Malcolm Wilson was top-seeded British driver, but he has only two-wheel drive and a very efficient handbrake, which loses him time here in his Vauxhall Astra GTE. The General Motors and Ford drivers were hoping for dry stages so that they could try to get to grips with the four-wheel drive cars. Pentti Ricola, well used to the Group N Mitsubishi, was having his first drive in the more powerful Group A factory car. Ricola only 3 seconds slower than Kankkunen. On the stage, just before this one, David Llewellyn's Toyota had 2 punctures. And with just one spare wheel, he has to drive on with only 3 inflated tyres. With such a handicap, his performance was amazingly daring. Llewellyn and Short were in a British-prepared Toyota. And even with the puncture, they only lost 8 seconds to Kankkunen and were still third overall as they left Chatsworth. A record 21,000 watched the action here. The fastest Ford Sierra Cosworth driver on the stage, Russell Brooks, who's tackled the event more times than anyone else. The Midlands' leading rally driver left here 15th overall. Britain's first fast lady of rallying, Louise Aitken-Walker, discovered by Ford's Find a Lady rally driver. She drove for Peugeot and now drives for Vauxhall.
Quick right, baby. 30, caution, big jump, and easy left. 50. Flat right, 70. Easy left.
This year's British national champion is Graham Middleton, with 2 outright victories to his credit. Middleton was driving a Toyota Celica GT4, but in the Group N standard car category, which he was leading after Chatsworth.
Donington saw one of the best drives by 39-year-old Kenneth Eriksson with the fastest time on the stage to keep him 2nd overall. Lying 4th, David Llewellyn had a bad moment here, sliding into straw bales.
I thought they were soft.
And this was as far as Armin Schwartz was to go. A road traffic accident after the stage forced him to retire. Colin McRae will remember Donington, and so will his father. Here, the 23-year-old clocked the stage in 3 minutes 46 seconds, 1 second faster than McRae Sr.
He comes to the tightest corner on the track.
At Blenheim, Kankkunen increased his lead, but was concerned about noise from his gearbox and the number of pheasants in the parkland. Italian Franco Canico in his Sierra Cosworth, 14th overall on only his second British Forest Rally. Japanese dentist Seizuke Oba was here for the 5th time. 2 years ago, he finished 11th overall.
From Saltburn in Cleveland.
And the smallest car on the rally was the Daihatsu Charade of Terry Cabey, still going well despite minor engine problems.
Back to 1987 when the
So at the end of day one, with 8 relatively short stages completed, this is what the leaderboard looked like, utterly dominated by Japanese cars. 9 out of the top 10. Kankkunen already out in front, but only second behind him were Ericsson, Llewellyn and Carlos Sainz, the Spanish driver, all in Toyotas. The Mitsubishi Galants and the Mazda 323s share the next 4 places. The quote of the day, perhaps, came from Evans the bus. That's Gwyneth Evans, of course, who drives a bus as a day job. He said he felt as if he'd been driving one all day. I'm sure Ford would have loved that description of his sleek Cosworth. So on to day 2, one of the longest and toughest days of the entire rally. 96 stage miles to run, most of them through the dank, dark, fog-shrouded forests of Wales. Alan Douglas again.
There was little of a Welsh welcome for the drivers, but in spite of the appalling conditions, Carlos Sainz kept up the pressure on Kankkunen.
Round to the junction, 90 left.
Louise Aiken-Walker and Ellen Morgan were also finding the fog a problem.
Dead straight, couple of hundred. To a slight left.
But not as much as Peugeot's top driver on the rally, Håkon Eriksson, whose 309 had come to grief at the side of the stage.
It was foggy and I couldn't see the corner and was a little bit too late on the brake, and then I tried and going sideways and we hit something and just rolled.
David Llewellyn was now on home ground and determined to make the most of it. Dovey is made up of 3 stages, 33 miles of competitive driving. Kankkunen still had the lead, but was only 13 seconds ahead of Sainz. Anu Mikkola has won the rally 4 times, more than any other driver, but he too found the going tough. He missed a gear on a hairpin, put the Mazda on its roof, and was trying to make up the 1 minute 20 seconds he'd lost as a result. Kenneth Eriksson upheld family honour after brother Håkan's demise in Hafren and was lying 3rd, just 2 seconds behind Sainz. And this is life in the fast lane with David Llewellyn and Phil Short.
Medium left, sorry, fast left to medium right. And medium left tightens over a brow, caution, bit of a tricky junction going down the hill. Then left after it.
Pentti Arikkala's Mitsubishi had been overheating, but he held on to 4th place overall in spite of this minor diversion on Dovey. But for David Llewellyn, big trouble was just around the corner.
On this section, a lot of smoke. Any Tango Mobile, we've stopped junction 12 in the stage, a lot of smoke under the bonnet. David's having a look at it, I think it may be turbo blown.
Austrian A-seeded driver Sepp Haider had been pleased with his performance in the Opel Kadett, but then he suffered a broken drive shaft. Having lost 20 minutes, he was to retire at the end of the day.
South of Betsy Coed in Penmagno, Ari Vatanen was really beginning to get into the groove. With a new gearbox and a recent change of turbocharger, his Mitsubishi was fastest through these stages. Ingvar Carlsen has been the most successful Mazda driver this year, but here in Wales he hit a rock. It cost the Swede 30 seconds. And Per Eklund was still battling on with his Lancia on his 77th World Championship rally. An electrical fire on the Cody Benin stage wasn't going to stop him. The leading non-works driver through here was Michael Sundstrom, Mickey Finn to his friends, 7th overall in his Mazda 323. On his home ground, Gwyndaff Evans. Local knowledge was certainly paying off as he edged his Ford nearer to the top 10. As for the day's major retirements, Russell Brooks's Sierra broke a piston, which couldn't be cured. He was up to 9th. And Graham Middleton went out in bizarre circumstances while changing a wheel. His Toyota slipped right off the track and couldn't be extricated in time. The Dovey Forest also nearly claimed Colin McRae, who modified his Sierra extensively. He lost a minute more on the stage than his father's RAD-prepared car. And he lost a lot of paint and most of his glass. He rallied on, dented, but undaunted.
Now, what have you been doing, Colin?
The second last stage, I'm not sure what the name is. We rolled over on a long left-hander. We slid into the ditch and outside and it rolled over.
So how much time did that cost you?
Probably just over 30 seconds.
Oh, so it's quite a quick roll then.
Yeah.
The leading British driver now, and the first with only two-wheel drive, Malcolm Wilson, just off the leaderboard in 11th place in his Vauxhall Astra GTE. With Middleton out, the leading Group N competitor was Gregoire de Mavius in a Mazda. He was 27th overall, but Simon Stubbings in another Mazda was right behind him. Another leader among the increasingly important standard car classes was John Saint's Toyota Corolla. Radio Times Rally Quest winner Liz Jeffries' Astra had managed to stay out of the trees, so far. But she and the 160 survivors still had 32 special stages to go over the next 3 days.
So after a day of thick fog and treacherous slippery Welsh gravel, this is how the leaderboard stood with 23 stages completed. Still dominated by Japanese cars, they occupy the top 7 places. Sebastian Lindholm creeping in there at number 8 in the lone Lancia. Pentti Ricola nicely poised at number 4 there in the Mitsubishi. And Carlos Sainz, the Matador, had a superb day, dicing with the leader. But there's no doubt who was the man of the day, ice-cool Kankkunen himself. So to day 3, another killer-diller day with 103 stage miles to run all the way up through the Lake District and through Kielder in the dark into Carlisle. We pick up the action in Sherwood Forest just after dawn at Clipston.
Robin Hood's old territory resounded to the roar of the rally leaders. Now in 6th place, Timo Salonen in the Mazda was in pursuit of a trio of Celikas and a brace of Gallants. The top non-factory team runner in 7th place, Michael Sundstrom, was also in a Mazda, but he needed a new gearbox. He drove on, hoping it would last until his service crew could fit a new one. Even though competitors spend every night in bed these days, many were complaining that they were still short of sleep. Mark Lovell would soon be wisely handing over the Sierra for the long motorway haul to the lakes to co-driver Ronan Morgan, 4th Brits in 15th place.
Grizzly Grisdale has a special place in rallying folklore, and this year was no exception. It didn't affect Kankkunen's leadership, but many crews emerged the worse for wear and decidedly battered. Carlos Sainz held on behind the Finn, never more than a few seconds slower and having a sensational drive. Ari Vatanen had been going well until this seemingly innocent left-hander. He hit a roadside tree stump, spilled the car and its contents onto a bank and sent spectators scrambling. Management called it a quick roll. Vatanen was back on his wheels and with his enthusiasm, if not his car intact, was on his way again. Spectators recovered maps and service documents and delivered them to him at Carlisle.
In Grisdale, I got one 90-degree left-hand corner. There was a tree stump hidden in the grass and it just launched me over immediately.
But, I mean, it was a dramatic turnover. How much did you lose there?
Well, then we had to do another 30 kilometers, the car like that, so altogether we lost about a minute. And and what I lost the confidence and my pride.
Jimmy McRae felt he was driving at 11/10ths and didn't want to go any faster. He almost didn't go any further, hitting the same log as Vatanen, but without the same results. And in the cockpit of the Toyota GT4, the same log caused more than a little upset for David Llewellyn and Phil Short. That impact caused drive shaft damage. What had been high hopes were at an end. Malcolm Wilson had been top British driver, but even on home ground was overtaken by Gwyndaf Evans. A pair of Sierra Cosworths, Colin McRae's, now in a group of 5 home-based drivers just outside the top 10, and Franco Cunico's were only seconds apart. They were about to come even closer.
Just west of Keswick through Coombe, Mats Jonsson was second in class behind Wilson for GM. Another class leader, David Metcalf, who lives down the road in Kendal, was 10th fastest through Witham in a Nova with only a 1.6-litre engine. Although Mazda were trailing Toyota and Mitsubishi in Group A, in Group N they were well ahead of the field, thanks to Belgian Gregoire de Mavius. His turbocharged four-wheel drive 323 was 11th overall and won Group N on last year's event. There's £3,000 up for grabs for the first to finish using lead-free fuel. John Morton's Lancia was leading the Greens as they left the lakes.
It was in the Kielder complex that things really started to hot up. Kankkunen had brake trouble and alternator problems, and he was about to lose the lead. But as ever, he was ice cool.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Sainz was happy, moving up to top spot with Auricola 1.5 minutes behind. Kankkunen had slipped to third. Then drama in the Brumilin stage. Cunico crashed, and as he tried to restart with the help of spectators, there was a collision with Colin McRae's car. As a result, both Cosworths retired. Kielder had lived up to its reputation.
So after a day of real drama, in which at least 10 cars had either rolled or gone off into the timber, and over 40 had fallen by the wayside for one reason or another, the rally had a new leader, Carlos Sainz of Spain, closely followed by Pentti Auricola, who'd driven like a dingbat all day in his Mitsubishi Galant, neither of whom had ever before won a World Championship event. Kankkunen now in third place, but 2 minutes adrift, and therefore under real pressure. Day 4 dawned bright and clear, almost ideal rallying weather in fact, dry and cold, as the cars went on to tackle 5 stages in southern Scotland.
These are the classic Scottish stages, well known by the clubmen and the seasoned campaigners, but for Spaniard Carlos Sainz, it was his first chance to renew an acquaintance he first made on last year's rally. He wasn't a happy man. Auricola was pressing hard. His lead of 1.25 minutes had been reduced to just 33 seconds. In the four-wheel drive, four-wheel steering Mitsubishi, Pentti Auricola was on the attack. He set fastest times on each of the 5 Scottish stages. He had the advantage of having covered these same stages with pace notes in June on the Scottish Rally. It was very much foreign territory for Juha Kankkunen. Like Sainz, he hadn't been here since last year. He was disturbed by the long straights and blind brows. Particularly difficult, he said, and you had no idea where the road went. Things just hadn't gone his way since he crossed the border. Brake problems too for Kenneth Eriksson in the other works Toyota. His service crew were preparing plastic guards for the brake pipes. No real problems though for Michael Sundstrom in the four-wheel drive Mazda, but he was worried about heading south. Last year, Dalby Forest was his downfall. Taking the air in Scotland, bruised and battered, Ari Vatanen was back on form with second fastest times to teammate Auricola. In another Mazda, 1985 world champion Timo Salonen, less than 5 minutes behind the leader in 5th place. Hannu Mikkola started the day behind Jimmy McRae and ended the Scottish stages almost 1.5 minutes ahead.
As the first Spaniard to lead this great British classic sped back into England and Kielder, Sainz was only too aware that he had a charging Auricola closing the gap, Toyota's Matador being chased by the Bull in the Mitsubishi. After 2 circuits of Raw Hill and Reedsdale, Auricola had clocked up 9 out of 10 fastest times. His gallant suspension had been lowered for less oversteer, more traction and faster cornering. To try to avoid punctures on the badly cut-up tracks, the second time through, some very special Michelins had been fitted. On the rev limiter in top, Auricola was doing 130 miles an hour through the trees. Malcolm Wilson and his Vauxhall were winning 3 important rallies within the rally. He was driving the first car with only 2-wheel drive. His was the first British car on the leaderboard, and at 11th overall, he was the leading British driver. Followed 2 minutes later by Gwyndaf Evans, the leading Ford driver. And that was in spite of a total of 4 punctures and a bent suspension arm as the 4th day drew to a close. Jimmy McRae's Ford Sierra needed a new drive shaft, a change of differential and 2 new wheels to get through Kielder. While Mark Lovell lost 15th place on the final stage of the day when he misjudged a left-hander and shot up a fire break. He escaped, but it cost him 8.5 minutes.
What a fantastic day, what a good drive.
Oh yes, it has been a very, not much pressure because it's not compulsory to do this business, but it's fantastic to drive a rally car like this one, and so it has been a very enjoyable day.
And I needn't ask, what are the tactics for tomorrow?
No, I didn't come here to lose.
Well, there's the gauntlet well and truly thrown down. So after 4 days, we've got 2 rival works teams, Toyota and Mitsubishi, both of whom would give their eye teeth to win this event, and 2 drivers who've never won a world-class event before. The difference being Penty knows the Yorkshire gravel like his back garden, and Carlos doesn't. But they both know if they try too hard and get it wrong, Kankkunen will pounce and take away all the spoils. It really couldn't have been better set up if it had been written for a television programme.
As the 1989 winner. On the early close stages, Sainz knew he had everything to do to hold on to his 31-second advantage. He then set fastest times on the first 2 stages of the day. His nearest rival, Auricola, after his sparkling performance yesterday, had problems with his lights at the worst possible time, and he lost precious seconds to the Spaniard.
We have some electrical problems. Its lights come sometimes dim and sometimes bright, and of course we prefer it to be bright.
Yes. So how does that affect you regarding Carlos's time?
I don't know. I think he's going very well. He's going faster than us, and so I have to put my right foot more down.
How was it, Carlos? Good? Good. You were beating Penty on these stages?
Yes, in the last 2.
It was then on to 2 difficult tests, the short Wycombe, known as one for the brave, with wet and slippery hairpins, and the classic North Yorkshire Forest Cropton. More than 8 miles, fast and smooth, with deceptive bends. Both Auricola and Sainz were giving everything, jockeying for position, and everything was at stake. Malcolm Wilson, just outside the top 10, was the leading British driver, having changed his gearbox overnight to gain more speed on the long Dolby stages. Less than 2 minutes behind them, in his element, Gwyndaf Evans, 12th overall on his first world event, although black ice at the start of the day had caused him some anxious moments. And completing the home trio behind the Englishman and the Welshman, Scotsman Jimmy McRae.
How did that go, Penty?
Oh, that was fantastic. I think we were flying there, but I'm afraid that that Spanish guy can also fly. And
Spanish fly?
Well, yes, I think I prefer thin air.
What is the difference in time between you and Colin?
I don't know, because we're the first car on the road, but it looks like this rally is a little bit too short for us.
It was okay, 6 seconds slower than Penty.
6 seconds lower. 35 stage miles to go now.
This morning we had a drive shaft break in the long Dolby, which didn't cost us a lot of time. It was near the end. And it just seems to be we've managed to get up a bit, then drop back, so we'll just try and finish now.
Are you all having a little race among yourselves, the three Cosworths, Jimmy and Gwyndaff and yourself?
Well, I can't really because I'm quite a way back because of last night. But we've been, every stage today, we've been quicker than the other two. So I suppose we are having a bit of a race, really.
For many drivers, once round the Yorkshire stages is enough. For those who survived, there was a second loop, and that's when the real drama began to unfold. With his lead over Auricola down to just 25 seconds, Saints' Toyota, which until now had been faultless, suffered prop shaft failure. He was down to just two-wheel drive, added to which he lost power steering. With just 2 stages to go, Auricola moved into the top spot, 1.5 minutes ahead. In the cockpit of the Galant, he had difficulty containing himself. He was on course for his first World Championship win in almost a quarter of a century of rallying, and 13 attempts at the Lombard RAC. All that stood in his way was a steady drive over the remaining 9 miles of stages. For Michael Sundstrom, lightning struck twice. Through Dalby, he ripped off his rear offside wheel, which is exactly what he'd done on the same stage last year. And last-minute drama for Per Eklund in the Lancia when the gearbox failed on the penultimate stage. But with the help of enthusiastic spectators, he made it to service and a new one was fitted. But it was all in vain. He was excluded for being over the time limit on the road section. Consolation, though, for Malcolm Wilson. His demise put him into the top 10 as Britain's highest-placed driver.
Those who did come away with awards for their driving included Vauxhall's Louise Aikin-Walker and Ellen Morgan. Having failed to finish the last 2 years, this time they were 18th. And winning another ladies' prize, Louise is still the world's fastest female rally driver. By winning the Group N category here, Gregoire de Mavius from Belgium ensured Mazda are this year's championship-winning manufacturer in the showroom class. Peugeot, once winners of the event, at least won a class, thanks to the talented Simon Davison's efforts in the small-engined 1.3-litre 205 Rally. Taking home the biggest prize money cheque of the rally, £4,400, will be James Sutherland from Chesterfield, who won his class and the Green Award. A Peugeot 205 won another class, this time driven by John Leopard from Aldershot. The 1600cc class in Group A went to this 205 GTI. The Calvin brothers, Ian and Ewell, the rallying greengrocers from Belfast, won their class in a virtually standard Toyota Corolla Coupe. And for the 17th year running, Skoda have won a class on this, the ultimate car test, in their new front-wheel drive Favourite. While Hugland and Hunt were both conquered by Kielder, Sibera took home the smallest Group N award to Prague. And so the final furlong over the Humber Bridge for the last stage north of Scunthorpe. Just over 5.5 miles round the steelworks for Pentti Auricola to win at his 13th attempt in the first Japanese car with 4-wheel drive and 4-wheel steering.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Fantastic. What a run.
Oh, it was the easiest RAC rally I have ever had. I think it was quite noticeable that I was enjoying driving the car very much so, and that certainly was the best car which I have ever driven, and of course it makes you know, it's a fantastic feeling. Best week in my life.
Well, everybody loves a new winner, particularly if he's as British a Finn as you're ever going to get. And one other thing this week does, it really sets the stage for blistering Japanese-Italian competition next year. With that, it's goodbye from Rally Report 89 in Nottingham.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pentti Auricola and his co-driver Ronan McNamee, the winners of the 1989 Lombard RAC Rally.